Now, just as in an organization, there are various positions to fulfill various functions for the smooth running of the organization, so also for the smooth running of the universe, Hinduism tells us that there is a divine hierarchy. There is the unmanifest supreme reality, that is God principle, the supreme God principle, traversing through God, His incarnations, various deities, sages, saints, gurus or spiritual masters, further coming down to ordinary human beings, then to animals, birds, other creatures, and even inanimate objects. So that is how the divine hierarchy runs. So in these ones that I have mentioned, basically the amount of divinity reduces as we go down the hierarchy, or the manifestation of divinity is less and less so. However, as human beings, we have the interesting opportunity to experience the highest, unlike any other part of the creation. Similarly, there are further steps, such as we talked about ritualistic worship. There is mental worship also, which is a part of the path of devotion. As also are there many paths, such as the path of meditation that many of you may have come across, yogas, that is the path of deliberate rigor, and there is the path of knowledge, there is the path of action without expectation of results. Now Hinduism, being in existence from time immemorial, also recommends a particular path for each different era. The current era being the era of strife or Kali Yuga. Hinduism recommends that people are very busy, so the only practical method to be able to do sustained spiritual practice, to be able to experience the divinity in and around us on a sustained basis for at least a few hours a day, is chanting the Lord's name. So chanting simply means repetition of the name of God, and different people from different family or religious background, they can chant the name of God as per their particular religion or faith. And once you chant the name according to that religion where they are born in, or the one that they have faith in. So chanting is something that can be done in conjunction with other spiritual practices that you may be doing, such as meditation or yoga, or if you believe in doing good actions without expectation of results, you can still do them with chanting. Chanting helps you reduce your expectations and perform these actions perfectly. So chanting makes all this possible. That is why it is the recommended spiritual practice for the current era by Hinduism. Now, there is the spiritual class or Varnashram Vyavastha that Hinduism gives us. Now, this particular system, it helps hone our basic potential to go towards realization based on our qualities and our deeds. It is not based in our birth. And one example of it is somebody who may be able-bodied but may not be wealthy or may not have the courage to protect himself or others, or he may not have a sharp intellect that is required to understand spiritual scriptures or holy scriptures. So such a person also has equal right to experience the divine truth. What can that person do? They can serve and offer their body for the cause of spirituality, for the cause of spreading sattva. So such a person belongs to a certain class, the spiritual laborer class or Shudra system. Similarly, there is the Brahmin or the priest class. Those who belong to that have to have a very sharp intellect. It is not dependent on their birth or their family background. And they have to be able to understand, learn, practice and impart holy teachings to others while performing all other services that they possibly can, such as service with their wealth, service with their body, and service also to protect themselves and others from bad things. So often this particular system of Varnashram Vyavastha or the spiritual class system of Hinduism is misunderstood for the social ill called casteism. Casteism is not based on one's qualities and deeds. It is based in one's birth. It is a social ill, and like other social ills, it is not limited to Hindu society alone. We see it in varying degrees, discrimination based on financial and family background in various societies in various times. Now, besides the widespread misconceptions about Hinduism, there is also a lot of trivialization and at times downright denigration of Hindu symbols and concepts. For example, we see here that Sony company, in an effort to attract the Hindu Indian market, brought out a game with the Hindus' revered deity Lord Hanuman as a superhero whose actions could be manipulated with a game console. PlayStation. Yes. Oh, you know that game? Well, now that you know about it, you should not buy it. So, after the peaceful and educational protests by Hindus, the Converse Shoe Company recently withdrew its shoes with Hindu deities' images. So, peaceful protests and education does help. Creating awareness does help. Now, why is this wrong? We may talk about freedom of expression, and we may talk about we should be able to take a joke. Now let us understand that just as the divine energy of a divine principle accompanies its accurate depiction, so also its perverse depiction is accompanied by random distressing vibrations. Now, depicting a divine symbol or principle in a form thoughtlessly or willfully deviating from a scriptural description amounts to spiritual pollution. It gives rise to Tama component and those vibrations. Now, Tama component, being inferior in nature, gives out inferior spiritual thought, spiritual vibrations, and hence influences our thoughts in a negative way. So, when we look upon something like that, what happens when we see a perverse depiction of a deity? What happens is that our mind becomes restless. But when we look at an accurate depiction of a divine principle, our mind achieves concentration. It is filled with peaceful and noble thoughts. Now, I am going to show you a couple of pictures. Before I show you those pictures, I request you to focus on your breath for 1 or 2 minutes, and then I will show you those pictures. I urge you to try this experiment just so that we can understand what I am going to say. So we'll just focus on our breath now.